Welcome to episode number 3 of High-End Homes Handled Right, the Real Property Management Luxury podcast, hosted by yours truly, Lyndel Johnson. In this episode, we're going to really see what it's like to be a property manager. Let's say you have a home or you're an investor and you have multiple properties and you're actually considering managing these properties on your own. And nothing's wrong with that. Don't get me wrong, nothing's wrong with that. But it's good for you to kind of have an idea of what will I have to do if I just manage my properties. Unfortunately, it's not just taking or collecting rent. There's a lot that goes into really managing your property so that you get what you want. And most people, what they want is that return on their investment. That's what they're looking for. They had purchased that property, or maybe the investor had purchased that property for their future. And that's a big asset that a property manager, or should I say yourself, are taking care of right now. And, really, when you do, or if you do select a property management company, you want that management company to look and take care of that property as if it's their own. There's nothing worse than making a decision that, hey, I am going to use a property management company. And then later on, you find out that that property management company maybe is not visiting the property, or they're not treating that property as if it's their own. That's what you don't want. You really don't want that. But you know what? Listening to this, I hope that you have an idea of what a good property management company can do, and the keys to look for when you're actually talking to the property management company. They should dig into these items and make sure that they're doing these things so that you get what you want, which is that ROI. So one thing that they do is they analyze the market conditions. One big mistake that property owners have or have done in the past is they'll have a property and the mortgage may be, let's say it's $2,000, and they expect for the rent that they receive to be about that same amount. And that's not really accurate. If that's the case, that's perfect. But they need to do they need to analyze the market. They need to really look and say, what are homes being rented for in the market in my area, in order to really decide, okay, how much we're going to charge for rent. And to tell if you're charging the correct amount for rent, one thing that you can do is really, when you're posting it online, for example, let's say you post your house online and you're seeing that you're not getting a lot of interest. You're not getting requests for showings, or maybe you're only getting 1 or 2 showings a week. That is a big sign of price. Most likely your house looks good. I'm sure that you've taken care of your home, and hopefully it looks good on pictures. But one of the biggest reasons that applicants do not apply to some properties or prospects aren't going to showings is really the price. And on the flip side to that, if you're getting tons of people requesting to go to showings and you're getting tons of applications, that's also a sign of price, but that could just mean you're priced too low. And if you're priced too low, you're not getting the returns that you want, unless that's your strategy now. There are some investors that their strategy is, hey, for that first year that I'm putting a tenant in that house, I want to make sure that it's a respectable family that's going to live there, take care of my family, or should I say take care of my house. And as long as they're in that house, it's fine. Later on, we could talk about during the renewal process, we could talk about maybe increasing the rate. This is a strategy that some investors do take, or some homeowners do take, but there's nothing wrong with this. There's really nothing wrong with this if you have the money to pay for the mortgage and everything else. But if this is okay and that's your strategy, go with it. But if you're having a lot of showings and a lot of people applying, you're priced too low. We talked about finding new tenants. That part that we're talking about with finding those tenants and marketing the property managers are doing this. They're going out, they're either taking pictures themselves of the properties, or they're hiring a photographer to do so. They're taking those photos and they're posting it online. If it's a real estate agent, they may be posting it on MLS. And when these homes are posted on the site, they're then getting requests for showings. Then they're going to the property to go to showings. All these things are done by your property manager. And, most, let's say owners have another job that they have to do. And a lot don't really want to deal with, driving out to those properties to do showings. And some can't. Some homeowners and investors, they live out of state. They don't live in the same state as their rental property. So they have no choice but to hire someone to do this work for them. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nowadays, there's actually some property managers use technology. There's for example, a box where you put it on the door and you put the key inside, and it's digital where a prospect can go online. They can request to go to a showing, a self-showing. They show their ID. Maybe they have to, show their a credit card. They then get a response stating, "Hey, you're scheduled for Sunday at noon." And then that Sunday at noon, they go there and they're getting a PIN. They use that PIN to go in. They enter the door, they do the showing themselves, a self-showing. When they're done, they return the key and they leave. Many property management companies are actually doing this now. And some homeowners are trying to do that for themselves. But it costs money to do that. And the next one now is, so let's say that same person that went there on that Sunday at noon and went to visit the property, and they loved it. And then they decided to apply. They applied online. And then, by the way, you've gotten 5 or 6 more applications. How do you screen these applications? Making sure that you are not discriminating against a certain class. You're not discriminating against, someone that may have a dog. You're not discriminating based off of, your self-beliefs. But you want to make sure that you're not making a decision that can really hurt you in the future. So, having a property management company that is that buffer between the applicant, the future tenant, should I say, and you is a good thing. Also, you never want to move a prospect in and then later find out that, they really never intended to pay their rent. They were only intended to pay for probably a month, and then you weren't going to pay again. And then later on, you find out you have to deal with that eviction. A prospect is a person or a family that you want to be able to really feel that they're going to be honest. They're going to take care of your house. And a lot of people will do this, but you have to make sure that the materials you're getting is really accurate. And a property management company will do that for you. They're going to look at pay stubs. They're going to contact employers. They're going to call, where that tenant used to live prior landlord. They're going to see how were they paying their rent on time? Were they delinquent a lot? Then you're going to go look at criminal history, because not only are you moving someone into your house, but now you're moving this person into your neighborhood. And I'm sure that the neighbors want someone that's doesn't have a criminal history, and it's not a bad person, I should say. But believe me, you don't want to prevent someone coming in because they have a history. But, these are things that a property management company would know. They would know what you can do and what you can't do, who you can deny, and reasons for a denial. You don't want to have to deal with this. You don't want to have to go and do your research and find out who you can bring in. And so I would say, get someone to do that for you. Maintenance, that's another one. Now you've found an applicant who is incredible. You gave them that call. Man, trust me, this is one of my favorite things, is to give that call and saying, hey, you're approved and you can move in next week or 2 weeks or whatever. I love that call. That call, makes me really love what I do. So you've given that call they've moved in, and then now they're having those maintenance issues. They're calling you on that Sunday at midnight saying that we're having plumbing issues. You didn't have this investment property so that you can get that call at any time of the night. And if you did, that's awesome. But most people don't, get investment properties to have to dig into this all the time. And you really want to make sure that when you get those calls, that you actually respond and you take care of that tenant. Because if that tenant loves where they live, you've got a tenant that's going to be there for a long period of time. And it's not going to be hard for them to renew. They're going to want to renew. And they're going to take care of that house like it's theirs. And the biggest thing is that communication piece. They call and they request for maintenance. You answer that call and you help solve that problem. You've got vendors and you send the vendors there. You send your plumbers there. The plumbers are just like you. They're respectful. They care about what they do. And that's what is so important in that maintenance piece. And that's what property managers do. They have a vendor list. They have vendors that they have screened. They have vendors that they have relationships with. And those are vendors that, take great care for their properties. And like I said before, a vendor is really just like the property management company. So if they're a business and they want to, give A+ customer service, if not, it looks bad on that property management company. And another part, it's not just maintenance calls that you're going to get. You may get calls about, complaints. You may get complaints from tenants that's saying, hey, the neighbor that lives next door is causing us grief. They're partying every night and I can't sleep, or I can't pay my rent this month. It won't be on time. Can you do something for me? There's so many different issues that come about. And if you can have someone to take care of this, it will be great for you. And that's just more sleep for you. It's more sleep for you. And, another thing is, now let's say that tenant who said, hey, I can't pay this month, or I'm going to pay late, maybe that turned into 2 months, and you have to do the eviction process. And by the way, when I say 2 months, I'm just using that as an example, but honestly, you should not wait so long to handle someone that hasn't paid their rent. In another episode, we'll talk about the steps that you need to take, such as, delivering that 3-day notice. So let's just, for this episode, we'll just say that, it's been lingering. They haven't paid their rent. And now you have to do the eviction process. That is the worst thing to deal with, evictions. I mean, no one wants to kick a family out, but also no one wants to not get paid their rent, because you have to pay your mortgage. And so if you have a property management company, they're dealing with that eviction for you. And that circles back to what we talked about earlier. We talked about that screening step. If you really did a great job at screening, I would say 90% of the time, it doesn't go to an eviction, because you screened them and, you made sure that they're making about 2.5 times the rent, or you made sure that they are a quality tenant that you're moving in that's going to live at that house. So evictions are going to be rare for you. But there's also times where that tenant, things happen. It's life. They may lose their job, or there may be a death in the family. And all of a sudden, a family that's, living comfortably is now, counting pennies, and they're struggling to live. Life happens. So that's that other 10%. But, your property management company can deal with that eviction if there's going to be an eviction. And they can also dealing with that tenant and taking care of that tenant. Also making sure that you are taken care of as that owner and investor, making sure that there is some safety nets for you in case something like this happens. And last but not least, know the laws. You must know the laws. How much can you pay? How much can you charge for late fees? When do you charge for late fees? Who can you deny and who can you not deny? And why can you deny them and why can't you not deny them? If someone applies for your home and they have 5 dogs, and they say that, they need these dogs for medical reasons. How do you make sure that's accurate? How do you view these letters? There's so many things that a property manager knows and a property manager deals with on a daily basis that, you as an investor or homeowner may not really know these laws. And so all these things we talked about, analyzing the market conditions, finding new tenants, screening the tenants, dealing with maintenance, having to address the tenants, doing lease renewals, managing evictions, knowing the laws. That takes all those things, takes a lot of work. And that's not even your 9-to-5 job. That's not even the job that you get paid to do every day of the week. So property managers are a valuable asset for you. One of the pushbacks that I've heard about having a property management company or using one is, hey, Lyndel, I don't want to have to pay someone to manage my property. Well, I tell you, payments aren't that much. So most property management companies charge a range between 8% to, I've seen 13%, which is high, but the ones that are 13, they better come with some extra, come with something, and some do. But I've seen that range. So let's just say it's 8%. If they're charging that 8%, what happens is when your tenant pays their rent, 8% is taken from that rent. They're collecting that, and then they are paying you the remainder. And so that is, I'd say that is a small fee in comparison to all those other things that we discussed today. And you need to value your time. Hey, go out this weekend, spend time with your wife, spend time with your kids, go to a baseball game, go to their soccer game, have fun. And don't use your phone and have to answer these tenant issues. So, there are a lot of things that property management companies do, and they're just an asset. So, if you have any more questions, you can reach out to Real Property Management Luxury. But also, the next episode, we're going to talk about if you want to do it on your own, on how to take advantage of that and do well. But once again, this is Lyndel Johnson from Real Property Management Luxury, and this is High-End Homes Handled Right, the Real Property Management Podcast. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.